I was a history major at a well-respected university in the Midwest, known for its sprawling, ivy-covered buildings and century-old architecture. My dorm, Caldwell Hall, was one of the oldest on campus. It had its quirks, creaky floors, drafty windows, and radiators that hissed like angry cats, but I loved it. What I didn't love was the West Wing. Unlike the rest of the building, which was full of students and activity, the West Wing had been closed off for years. The official reason was renovations, but anyone who had lived in Caldwell long enough knew that was a lie. The hallway was always cold, no matter the season. Even in the sweltering heat of August, stepping near the blocked-off corridor sent a chill up your spine. And then there was the smell, a faint, metallic scent like old blood and rusted metal. Most students ignored it. I tried to do the same, until I started hearing the noises. It was late, around 2:30 a.m., and I was in the study lounge, finishing up a paper on Cold War espionage. The building was silent except for the occasional hum of a vending machine and the distant echo of someone coughing down the hall. Then I heard it, a soft knock. It came from the West Wing. I froze, fingers tightening around my keyboard. No one was supposed to be in that part of the building. The doors were locked. The hallway was empty. Another knock, louder this time. I swallowed hard, telling myself it was just the pipes or the wind. Caldwell was an old building. Old buildings made noises. But then I heard something that made my blood run cold. A voice, muffled, faint, but unmistakable. "Help me." I don't know what possessed me to do it. Maybe it was curiosity, or maybe it was something deeper. Some primal instinct telling me someone needed help. I grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight, and stepped toward the West Wing. The entrance was sealed with a heavy padlock and a metal chain, but the door was open, just slightly, just enough for someone to slip through. A gust of cold air rushed out from the darkness inside, carrying that same metallic scent. I hesitated. Every part of my brain screamed at me to turn around, go back to my room, pretend I never heard anything. But then I saw it. A handprint, smudged, faint, and streaked with something dark, pressed against the inside of the door. I stepped inside. My flashlight barely cut through the thick darkness. The hallway stretched ahead, lined with old dorm rooms covered in decades of dust and neglect. The air was thick, heavy, suffocating. Then I saw the trapdoor. It was near the end of the hall, half hidden beneath a rotting rug. The edges were scratched, splintered, as if someone had tried, desperately, to claw their way out. I knelt down, my breath shallow, and slowly lifted it open. A ladder descended into complete blackness. A noise drifted up from below, breathing, ragged, shaking, and then, "Please don't leave me down here." I knew her. Her name was Rachel Nguyen. She had gone missing last semester. Posters with her face had been plastered all over campus. "Rachel?" My voice cracked. Her eyes widened, filled with tears. "You have to get out. He's coming back." A floorboard creaked overhead, then another. Someone was upstairs. Rachel's hands clutched my wrist. "Please, we have to go." Panic surged through me. I grabbed her arm and half lifted her to her feet. My brain was screaming, Who is coming? But I didn't wait to find out. We scrambled up the ladder, my hands shaking so badly I nearly slipped. As soon as we reached the hallway, I slammed the trapdoor shut, shoving the rug over it. Another footstep, closer this time. Rachel grabbed my arm. "This way!" We ran. Down the hall, past the abandoned rooms, toward the exit. The door slammed behind us just as I heard a voice, low, angry, close. "Where do you think you're going?" I don't remember much after that. Just running, police sirens, Rachel sobbing against my shoulder. Campus security found us huddled near the administration building. They searched the basement but found it empty. No footprints, no sign of struggle, just the trapdoor still slightly ajar. Rachel was taken to the hospital. She told the police she had been abducted, held captive for months, but she never saw his face, and they never found him. Ethan and I had been friends since freshman year. We were both journalism majors at Westfield University, a small but prestigious college in upstate New York. He was the kind of guy who made everything feel like an adventure, always chasing a story, always looking for something deeper. The night he disappeared, it was supposed to be like any other. We had just finished working on a project for our investigative journalism class. Ethan had this crazy theory about a series of disappearances linked to an old building on campus, Warren Hall. He said students had been going missing for years, 1 or 2 every decade, but the school always covered it up. I told him he was reaching, that people transfer, drop out, move on. Then why do none of them have a paper trail? He shot back. No social media, no forwarding address, nothing. It's like they just stopped existing. That was Ethan, always suspicious, always digging. At around 11:30 p.m., he got a text and said he had to check something out. He promised he'd be back in an hour. He never came back. At first, I didn't panic. Ethan was impulsive. Maybe he got caught up in his research. Maybe he was chasing some lead. But when I woke up the next morning and saw his bed untouched, a deep unease settled in my stomach. I started calling his phone. No answer. Straight to voicemail. I went to the library, the cafe he liked, even Warren Hall, the abandoned science building he was obsessed with. Nothing. By the afternoon, I filed a missing persons report. The police weren't helpful. College students disappear all the time, the officer said, barely looking up from his paperwork. He's probably off partying somewhere. Call us if he doesn't turn up in a few days. But I knew Ethan. Something was wrong. I broke into Ethan's dorm that night. I needed to know what he was working on before he disappeared. His laptop was still on his desk, screen locked, but I found his notebook, the one he always carried. Inside were pages and pages of notes about Warren Hall. One entry stood out. I think I found the tunnel. The one they used. Meeting my source at midnight. If I don't come back, it's real. A tunnel? I didn't know what it meant, but I knew where I had to go. Warren Hall had been closed since the 1980s. Rumors swirled about why. Some said asbestos, some said structural damage. Ethan believed it had been shut down because of something much darker. I made my way to the building after midnight. The entrance was sealed, but the back door had a broken padlock. Someone had been here recently. Inside, the place was a ruin, graffiti on the walls, shattered glass crunching beneath my feet. I moved carefully, using my phone flashlight to navigate the dark halls. Then I saw it. A trapdoor, half hidden beneath debris, just like Ethan had described. My hands trembled as I pulled it open. A metal ladder descended into the darkness. I climbed down. It was cold underground. The air smelled damp, like mold and something else, something metallic. The tunnel stretched ahead, lined with rusted pipes and flickering lights. I followed the path, my pulse hammering in my ears. Then I saw something on the ground. Ethan's phone. I picked it up. The screen was cracked, but when I pressed the power button, it lit up. There was one unread message. Turn around. I barely had time to register it before I heard footsteps. I spun around, my flashlight beam cutting through the dark. A man stood at the far end of the tunnel, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing dark clothes. His face was obscured by the shadows, but I could feel his eyes on me. He took a step forward. I bolted. I sprinted back toward the ladder, every instinct in my body screaming at me to get out. The footsteps behind me were fast, steady. I reached the ladder and scrambled up, slamming the trapdoor shut just as something slammed into it from below. I ran out of Warren Hall and didn't stop until I was back in my dorm, gasping for air. I went to the police again, told them what I found. They didn't care. They said there was no evidence Ethan was in Warren Hall, that I must have imagined the man in the tunnel, that maybe Ethan just didn't want to be found. I knew they were lying. The next day, Warren Hall was completely sealed off. New locks, new security cameras, as if someone wanted to make sure no one ever went back. Ethan's name was removed from the school registry. His student ID deactivated. It was like he had never existed. But I remember him. I remember what I saw. And I know that somewhere beneath this campus, in the dark, he's still there. Waiting, or worse, becoming one of them.